Okay, so for this next video, we're talking about layers. And layers is the second key component in After Effects. Like Photoshop and Illustrator, we're dealing with layers that are horizontal and vertical. And we are talking about how we can import different items into our project. We can bring in AI documents, PSDs, MP3s, .moves, TIFFs. It really can take a lot of different formats. I'm going to talk about switches and modes, about how to play by hitting spacebar, and the 5 basic transform elements. All right, so let's hop over to After Effects. And we left off here. We already talked about composition. So we know a composition is any of these circle, square, triangle icons here. And it says composition here as well. So now we're going to make a new composition for this next scene. And I'm going to hit that new composition here, or I could go up to the top to composition, new composition. And I'm going to give it a name, and this is going to be XD recording. You can give this whatever name you want. I'm going to make sure it's the same parameter as my first video, which was HDTV 720 29.97. I can make it as long as I want, so I'm going to start at 20 seconds. This could change depending on how long your screen recording is. You might want to go back, look how long it is, and make sure you can actually, these coincide with the original recording. Now I have this, it's a blank composition, and I'm going to bring in 2 more elements. So I'm going to go to File, Import, and I want to import 2 things. I'm going to bring in this PSD that I found online. Oops, you can't really see it there, but it's a cell phone. I can only see a shadow. Let's hope that looks a little bit better when I bring it in. And I'm also going to bring in my recording that I took from XD. And I made this recording just with QuickTime, like I make these videos as well. So it's a screen recording of my app. I'm going to bring that in. Notice I'm bringing both of these in as footage. I don't need the layers that are behind it. It's just footage. All right. Now I'm going to bring both of these over to my composition. Now I can do that 2 ways. I can drag that directly onto the composition, or I could drag into my timeline. I'll drag that one here, and I'll drag my footage down there to kind of show you. So I brought them both in, and what you'll end up seeing here is that there's 2 layers. So the cell phone is on top of the screen recording. So I can rename these, and I'll just call this phone, and I'll rename this recording. Makes a little bit more sense. And I can change this by dragging and dropping and changing the hierarchy. So I want the recording on top of the phone so we can make the illusion that the recording is within the phone. And if I go to the corners of either of these layers, I can click and drag to resize. Now the key to this is you want to click and redrag, and then as you're dragging, hold Shift second, not at the same time. Unlike Photoshop and Illustrator, first you have to, oops, I gotta zoom out a little more. You want to start dragging first and then hit Shift. A little bit different. All right, so I resized them both. They look almost better. There we go. So there's my phone. I'm going to put that right in the middle, and then I have my screen recording I want to put on top. There we go. That looks pretty good. So we're kind of mocking that up. Now, I can go in here and we could talk about masking to kind of mask that top section out. I'm just going to put it right below for now so we don't have to really worry about that. Okay. Now, if I wanted to preview this, because I already have a movie, I can hit spacebar on the keyboard, which is going to start playing through my timeline here. So I'm going to hit spacebar. You'll see this green bar kind of come across. That's buffering. So like in YouTube, it has to kind of play through once or twice to get up to speed since it hasn't rendered yet. So we can kind of see how that looks. I think it could benefit from some masking, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, and we can see. Now, do I need this to be longer? Well, I'm going to check how long this video is. So I could do that by going back here. Let's go to the actual video itself. have it deep into an abyss here. Okay, let's see how long this is. So if I look at this, 44 seconds. So I want to match this time. So to edit this composition, I'm going to go to Composition Settings, and I'm going to match my time to 44. And what we can see here now is down at the bottom, I want to see my whole timeline. If I look, I only have from 0 to 20. Down here at the bottom, this is the horizontal layering that I'm talking about. You can, oops, I don't want system preferences, quit that. If I move this down, if I can get to it, oh my, I'm having technical issues here. Hold on, let me make this a little shorter. There we go. I can zoom out and zoom in to my timeline. So I'm going to zoom all the way out so I can see from 0 to 44, because I can see here that I need this phone to be longer. So I'm going to click it and drag it to make it just as long. Otherwise, as we start going through, you'll notice the phone will disappear for that second half. So I'm going to drag that to be all the way down to 44 seconds as well. And now when I hit play, it will last the whole 44 seconds and we'll see the entire video. All right, so let's go back here. So now we have imported our movie. We've also imported a PSD. We talked about hierarchy vertically and horizontally. We have shown how spacebar hits play. I want to show two more things, which is switches and modes. So switches and modes is down here at the bottom. This will give you more options for each one of these. So for example, if I wanted to change my mode of the recording and have this multiply or darken, like these are all the blending modes, just like in Photoshop. And because this is a black background, it's not the best example of this, but this is where you could play around with those modes. On our other mode here, we have motion blur. We also have special effects that you can turn on, some easing, 3D, layers, so on and so forth. So switches and modes can come in handy when we're doing some specialty animations. And then finally, if I wanted to animate, let's make sure to go back and turn this multiply off. If I wanted to animate this in completely, I could come down here and go to my transform. Now, I would find it a little bit, we could animate both of these in at the same time. So I could come here and say at 1 second or let's say 2 seconds. It's about 2 seconds there. I can even zoom in so we can see it a little bit better. I can do one of these 5 transforms. So if I wanted it to fade in, let's have it fit this recording fade in. So I'm going to hit my little stopwatch and notice I'm animating backwards. And then at 0, I'm going to hit my keyframe again and I'm going to change this down to 0. So first diamond here at 0 seconds is at 0%. And if I come up, the second one at 2 seconds is at 100%. And I could do the same thing with the phone. I could hit my transform, hit the stopwatch for opacity, take that stopwatch down to 0, and do the same thing of taking this down to 0. Now I'm going to hit spacebar, and you can see how that would fade in.